So, hey, we've got a couple of people on with us today, but this is going to be recorded.
Right.
And I want to first just thank you so much for taking the time to jump on this Instagram Live and tell us about what's happening, because I think about when a disaster happens, I think about large organizations that are actually mobilizing, taking all these trucks down and setting up camp and either feeding people, or they might be, doing volunteer management. They might be setting up warehouses. And guys, if you're on this call and you've never even heard about this stuff before, there's a lot that's happening.
Really.
Wouldn't you agree, Pastor Ben?
Yeah, absolutely. What's really cool is how much is happening even before the disaster, and that's so great because I love being a part of what ServSource is doing and through the disaster response relational network. What's so great, I've been able to keep my pastors and my leadership in the loop of, hey, we're monitoring this storm 2 days out. It looks like it's going to be a widespread event. Let's kind of be ready to respond. So we don't have to just react. Oh, something happened. Oh man. So it's all the stuff that even happens before the storm that really sets us up for once everything takes place. And what's so great is through that network, through ServSource, what we're doing is monitoring where people are going to be stationed, what people are going to be doing. And then once assessments have taken place, okay, where could we kind of plug and play and how could we be of the best help? Yeah. And so on top of all that, there's so much more that goes into the weeks and months when things aren't happening. We've talked about all of the what to do on a blue sky day. And what's so great is just this past Saturday, we took 21 people through disaster response training. Wow. We trained 11 Sawyers. We had 10 that were going through ministry and support team training, how to do ministry, how to have front porch conversations, how to have how to minister to the soul, and then how to do assessments. All of that just took place this last Saturday. So we had a great segue into, hey, we've been in touch with partners. We see where they're at. We see what they need. We see how we could help. Now let's see who's available. And so...
Man, so good. As you're talking, there's just so many questions that are popping up into my mind. Yeah. And I know a lot of you out there have questions for Pastor Ben, but let me reel back a little bit. If you're not familiar, we do start tracking storms and just monitoring our partners, the partner organizations. A lot of them, like Samaritan's Purse, Mercy Chefs, God's Pit Crew, 516 Project. I'm going to forget people, but there's some incredible relationships out there. Right. And that's really a key component. But we have a link in our profile here on Instagram. If you go there, you'll find all the details about the website, where you can find information. And then also, just thinking about this big picture. If you're a church leader, we want to connect with you. So if you'll hit that connect button, we'd love to connect with you. Make sure that you're integrated into this communication portal, right, if you will. That's really what we've built together. Pastor Ben has been a part of what he was talking about, this disaster response relational network for years. And it's, Dennis Harris from Church of the Highlands, sometimes he calls it the darn network, because we just don't have any other way to describe it, right? And there's no membership fees. That's keeping anybody out. We just love Jesus, and we want to share through our actions that he's the hope of the world, Right. And so, man, let me reel back because I don't want to take too much time. But Pastor Ben, you're an outreach pastor, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so an outreach pastor, and through your local outreach, one of my questions is, how do you mobilize a response outside of your area? I know that you do a lot of different initiatives. Maybe it's a feeding program. Maybe it's, some type of sports program with the schools or reading program. But how do you take that idea and translate it into, hey, guys, there's a need a couple hundred miles down the road. Yep. And I believe, and our pastoral staff believes, that we can make a difference. So we're going to put a team together. How does that component start, and how do you begin?
Absolutely.
Somebody out there, they might be thinking, man, we got a big church, or we have a church and we got a couple of people that want to get involved. What would you say to them?
Well, I guess it has to start with, what resources you have available, or what your lane is. That's terminology we probably all use in different ways. Like, what is my lane? What are we good at? What are we going to be able to do in the event of a disaster? And then just trying to identify like what your sweet spot is. For us, we start with, guys, we're going to create consistent outreaches throughout the year that we're able to make an impact here. But what's so great is those impacts that we do locally can translate regionally really easy. For example, so if we're training sawyers, when we're training, we're out helping somebody in the community that needs tree work done or debris removed. So we always have a constant list running. We do things throughout the week in the community. We call it wellness ministry, where we're sitting down across from another person that may be going through some sort of crisis. And so we're able to take those same people that have been trained that way. When we do deploy, they are the ones that are the on the front porch talking with people that just lost everything, and they've been trained and they know how to do it. But I would just say, like, we found our lane. We found ways to keep people engaged throughout each month. Even though a disaster may not happen here locally, we're doing things to prepare for that. So when something does happen locally or even regionally, for us, we said, look, if something happens east of Texas or south of Kentucky, we're located along the coast in South Alabama, so east of Texas, south of Kentucky, for us, that's kind of our sweet spot. But there may be times where, hey, we're not able to deploy, but our heart as a church is we want to be able to respond in some way. So it's those big three things. You hear these a lot. We, as a church, we want to pray, we want to serve, and we want to give in some way. If something happens, we're going to obviously be praying. If we can't go and physically serve, then maybe we could give. We weren't able to deploy to some of the things that happened in Texas over the last 6 months, but we were able to send financial contributions. Yeah. And so I think it's just consistently keeping ways to either pray, ways to serve, ways to give consistently in front of your people, so they know your heart. They know what the culture. Our church knows when something happens, hey, what are we doing? What do we get to do? Do you need a check? Do you need my saw? Do you need my chaps? Or do you need me to load up the truck and go? What is it? Yeah. It's just a part of our culture, because it's something we do day in and day out. It's not just once a disaster happens.
Yeah. Let me ask you this on that note. We've always had some kind of pre-built banners, pray, give, serve. We have some type of system in the background where people can sign to, give or to serve. How do you, as an outreach pastor, and I'm asking because I've been in your shoes before, and there may be some out there thinking, well, that sounds great, but really hard to get something from the platform.
Right.
So how do you begin talking about that, maybe even early in the year or last year, so that your pastors would be prepared to be able to communicate that idea?
Absolutely. So I'm sure everybody, and you may be watching this, and you would say, man, it's impossible to get an announcement video for what we're doing, or, to get my lead pastor to talk about this. He's already talking about so much. How are we going to get it out there? For us, we face the same challenges. Our church is involved with a lot of things, especially this time of year, right? We got 13,000 Easter services happening, and we got to promote those. So how do you let people know we're training for disaster response, or we've got even a feeding program, or whatever it may be? Yeah. For us, we decided our rhythm is going to be the first 2 Sundays of every month. Our outreach ministry is going to have a massive presence out in the lobbies of our campus. And what's so cool is we'll put up, we've got 4, we call them pillowcase banners. They're like 3 foot by 8 feet tall, and they just slip over a banner stand. They're maybe $100 to purchase. I could get you guys the link if you're interested, but it's super simple. And we'll put up a disaster response banner, a local outreach banner, a correctional ministry banner, and a wellness team banner. And we've got team volunteers that represent each of those areas, which fall under outreach. And they're all wearing bright red T-shirts that say, "Ask me about outreach." And they take over the lobby. And so if they come by that station, we could sign you up for one of our monthly opportunities. And we keep everything out like a month in advance. We've got the whole year planned as best as we can right now. Mm-hmm. But those first 2 Sundays are crucial, because we're promoting what's going on that month. So this Sunday, there's going to be a presence in the lobby for an event we're doing the end of April. We're going to have bright red shirts on that say, ask me about outreach. So when you walk into the lobby on Sunday, there's an outreach presence. And we've gotten some great traction from that. We've gotten people that have signed up for events taking place in July, because, hey, I'm out of town these next couple of months, but what else? And we're able to tell them because we've planned and we've prepared so far in advance. So we try to do a pretty good job of staying ahead of things as much as possible.
Man, that's so good. Pastor Ben, you've been on them before. We do a monthly outreach leaders roundtable or on connection. I'd love for you to come and maybe even just kind of dive into that a little bit more.
Absolutely.
A month or two, if you would. Going back to the disaster response, Mississippi, what did it look like for you as you started planning? Who are you partnering with? How did you find them? And what are you taking with you? And I guess the final question is, how long are you going to stay? How do you set up your duration of serving?
Absolutely. So I'll just can't stress enough and point back to this, with ServSource and again, with that relational network, those are two things that we're paying attention to. So for this, for example, everything happened on Friday, I believe, so the disaster takes place, the event took place. We're Derek, you and I are even talking beforehand. There's so many people that are starting to know something may be needed. So let's be on standby. So again, it starts days even before the actual disaster. Once the disaster takes place, we've got key partnerships that are on the ground, getting assessments. And that's just stuff I pay attention to. What's going on? Are we needed? Some disasters happen and it's very localized, and through local officials or the local churches that are already there on the ground having things established, like they've got it covered. And so maybe we just send a check, or maybe there's no action required at that time. So we just kind of keep in touch. But for this, we saw, okay, the assessments are taking place. You see the death toll. You see that the town, they're using words like leveled, and it's not there anymore. And you start going, okay, this is probably a large scale thing. We're going to be needed. At that point, we're in touch with partners. We have such a great relationship with Dennis and Church of the Highlands, and they've been phenomenal to us. And we're typically, one of my first calls is, hey, where are y'all going to be at? Yeah. And we're going to come up and, one can put 1,000 to flight, two can put 10,000 trees to flight. We're going to come up there and help and be a part of that. And so that's for this one. We're going to be landing with Church of the Highlands. We'll be located at Forward Church in Amory, Mississippi. And again, they've been doing assessments. Local partners are there ahead of us. And so from that point, we know we've got an established base camp. We've got partners on the ground. Then I go into, okay, who do I have mode? Yeah. And we were taught a long time ago, because we used to just, hey, let's put it out to the whole church. Hey, who wants to go help somebody? We don't know what we're going to do, but come on. Woo! And I don't know if we actually were effective. It was cool, but man, I don't know how effective or impactful we were. And now we've learned to slow down and even let's go at the pace of our volunteers. There's so many times that I tried to beat a door down that maybe didn't need to be open at that time. Beat this door down and go help just because it's what we're supposed to do, but it may not be what we need to do. And sometimes the Lord's trying to tell us that, like, hey, your people are tired. You got nobody. Don't burn them out. Don't wear out just trying to do something just to do something. Yeah. So for us, we're going to put out the word, who's available. I start with my leaders. And then once my leaders say, yeah, I'm in, from there, we put it out to our larger group, our group that's been through training, and we just tell our entire church, this is what we're doing. Here's how to pray or how to give. If you want to serve, here's our future training dates, because we only want to take people that have been trained properly. And so now we're able to take 13 people that I know have been trained. They know how to do ministry. They've been through advanced Sawyer training, so they know how to do everything the correct and safe way. And we know, okay, here's our availability. So we head up early Thursday morning, and we'll probably get back sometime on Sunday. And that's how long we'll be up there.
Wow, very good. Well, a lot of things you said, some of the key words was training. And so I know that you had posted, and just kind of give a plug back to that Mississippi tornado response page. Guys, there's a there's a comment section where you can chat. Pastor Ben, you actually dropped a message in there the other day, but if you have questions about any of the steps that City Hope Church is taking as far as their training, or you're looking for help in that area, put a comment in there. Be sure to sign in, leave your information so that we can contact you. But we've got churches all over the country that have specific trainings for what they do. And so if it's something that you're looking for, we can help you connect to that. I know Pastor Ben, not this week, but maybe a week or two down the road, you'd be able to connect with somebody and just share some of those resources, I would think. Right?
Yeah, absolutely would. And we do that. We've got several churches that have come over and folded into our training, and then there's some of our bigger, more advanced trainings that we do, and we plan a few months ahead. And we've got a couple of churches interested in coming over for those. Yeah. Working with Pensacola Dream Center that has shown interest in getting some folks trained. We're doing an event over there in May. So yeah, we're always open and always looking for ways to learn. Certainly looking for ways that we could share what we've learned as well.
I love that about you. I know that your time is tight, and so is but man, thank you so much for what you're doing. What God is using you guys as an example, and I've got to say, I mean, there's only a couple of churches in the nation that I know that just, man, they have disaster ready teams ready to take off. One of the things that just jumped out at me was, it's important to have those trained teams. But for general volunteer, like if you put the word out and somebody's like, man, I want to go, I don't have training. Can you put them to one of these teams, or do you tell them to wait for the next one? What does that look like?
We typically, especially now, we typically lean towards just wait towards the next one. We'll point them to our next training. So if you can't go on this deployment, we'll fold you in. There's also some people though, if we have personal relationship, I have a good friend of mine that I've been discipling for a while that's going to be riding up there with me that I want by my side. I want to teach them some things, and I'm going to use this opportunity to do that. So we're not like, it's got to be this specific way, but we do try to be protected instead of opening it up to thousands of people. I want to make sure it's people that we do know. So if they miss out on a deployment, we're going to let them know of other trainings. If something happens close to us, within 100 miles or so, we may even let them know, again, through the ServSource app. There are other ministries or other organizations. If you're just itching to go, and we may not be sending a team, or we may not have availability for you to go with us, we'll point them to some of those other ministry partners even, because some of those partners typically do training on site, or they have different ways that you could serve, whether it be through Mercy Chefs or God's Pit Crew, different things like that.
Yeah, and that's a great thing to bring up. As you're thinking about this, you may be at the level that City Hope Church is at, where they can train their own teams, and mobilize as a group. But you may also have people, or maybe a group from your church that wants to get involved, but you as a leader in the church are like, man, we just don't have this type of training. We've got partners that are listed. If you go to that Mississippi Tornadoes page, you can go to active partners. Each one of those active partners, if you click on their details, it's going to take you straight to their website where you can go in and sign up teams or sign up as an individual, and you'll have all the training, all the tools, everything you need. All you got to do is show up. And a lot of them, I think you got to bring a bedroll. But other than that, man, they'll feed you. They'll put you up as, in a place to sleep, and they'll give you clear direction and make sure that you're safe when you're there serving. So use that as a resource. We always want to encourage church leaders to start building your disaster response team, because you never know, what's going to happen. And especially if the event is not, hundreds of homes, it's tens, and it's in your neighborhood, and that big organization isn't going to come. It makes a difference to be prepared so that you can be the church, the hands and feet of Jesus, and serve in a great way. So, Pastor Ben, anything else you want to add before we go?
I'll just add to what you're just saying, man. It may not even be a saw team. When you hear things like chainsaws, or feeding people, or doing roof jobs, or mucking out houses. You may not have those resources or the desire even, or, but you may be really good at something else. And that's that whole find your lane and create consistent opportunities for people to get good at whatever your lane may be. A great example was at one of our last roundtables, there was a lady that said, man, we can't do chainsaws or any of this stuff y'all are talking about. And we said, well, what are y'all good at? What's your church known for? And they said, well, man, we have a kick butt childcare program.
Come on.
And well, what if your childcare program went and offered childcare for first responders? Because they're would be home with their families right now. Boom, there's your disaster response ministry. So when you hear things like sawing and, doing crazy debris stuff, you may not have a skid steer, but you've got people that are really good at rocking babies. And that could be your disaster response ministry there. Just find whatever it is and roll with it.
That's such a good note and word for somebody. Do something. Pick a lane. And baby steps are important. I would imagine that you start with all your teams and skid steer. Y'all started with a couple of things that you were doing in your city, much like what we do, and churches all over the country. So if you're an individual watching this, I'd encourage you, find your local outreach department. If you have outreach pastor or leader, or maybe it's a youth leader with an outreach heart, like, hey, how can I serve you? How can I get involved to help our church, begin to help people outside of these walls? And that's really the big deal. Once we get outside the walls, it turns into, hey, we're going to Mississippi, So, man, thank you so much. Can I pray for you before you go?
Yeah, please do.
We thank you so much for Pastor Ben, for City Hope Church, God, for their willingness to go. God, your word says, your name says go. And my pastor says, if you look at it backwards, it says do. So get a blessing. God, would you protect every one of these on the team and churches from around the country, organizations that are responding to what's happening in Mississippi, whether it's whatever community it's in. I was going to start naming them off, but I'm going to miss one. But God, we just ask for their protection, God, for your name to be made famous and for the local church to be made the hero. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, man.
Ben, hope you have a great trip and let us know if we can do anything for you.
Likewise, man. Talk to you soon.
Right. Okay, y'all, check out servesource.org. Go to the Mississippi Tornadoes page. You'll find all of the active organizations. You may even see a post from Pastor Ben down in the comments that you can respond and talk to him directly with. So I want to encourage you to do that. Hey, have a great day.